cameras.
You break the couch?
Yeah, we'll break the couch. Woo-wee! What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the
Lines on Water podcast.
Lines on Water podcast. I'm Nathan Blank.
I'm Caden Parisian, and we have some fun stuff to talk about today.
As you probably read from the title, the topic of this video will primarily be revolving around crappie. Black and white crappie. More so black crappie. Before we get into this video, we have a little bit of a beverage to enjoy here. We are not sponsored by anyone, but we are greatly influenced by President's Choice ginger beer. If you don't know what ginger beer is, ladies and gentlemen, it's a beer that's ginger, as the name would suggest. No alcohol. Alcohol is bad.
It's literally just ginger in a can.
Yep. It's like whiskey, but it's non-alcohol. But it's not at all like whiskey. Just putting it out there. So as I nicely ingest this beverage, we're going to talk about some crappie.
Yes, sir.
So, what are crappie, Gaten?
Well, we're basically, we're going to stay more focused on the black crappie side of things because that's usually what we target. I don't even know if there's white crappie in Manitoba. Probably is in some places. But, crappie is a very unique panfish. Very, very unique fish. They actually look like a pan with a tail and a face and a mouth. Very unique fish. They tend to like to school up. They tend to pair up in schools, like very, very big schools. Probably the most popular way people catch them is during ice fishing season in the basin of the lakes. But you could also catch them during the summer and all season long. So generally black and white crappie mature around 2 years of age, and they live up to 15 to 20 years. I think 15 years was the...
More 15, yeah.
Yeah, I think 15 was the right number.
Let's keep in mind, like, they're probably, like, gonna get fished out and kept. Usually 15 years, like, concerning predators too, like pike and all that, whatever food chain is there. 15 years pretty extreme, but yeah. Maturing at 2 years, they are living up to 15 years. They have, obviously during mating season, to get the new batch coming in. And yeah, trophy sizes in Manitoba, master wrangler being 12 inches, that is really not that hard to obtain, honestly. You go up to anywhere in the Whiteshell Provincial Park, or we look at Lee River, we can look at, technically you can catch them in the Red River. Occasionally you hear about that. So more like river systems, but the lakes are usually where you'd want to find them.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's mud. They love mud.
Yeah.
That's what they love.
They like the deep depression points at any lakes. More so in the wintertime, I'd say. In the summertime, you can find them in like a foot of water, frolicking in the weeds and sunken timber and all that fun stuff. So, your use of slip floats with little worms and everything can catch those. But what would you rather talk about first, open water or hard water for them? So then we can just stay on one topic.
Let's go ice fishing.
Ice fishing? Okay. Good idea, because ice fishing is basically here. We've already been out on the ice already. So black crappie, for the most part, they're not going to travel far from where they hang out in the fall time. Usually in the fall time, they're more so focused on feeding up, bulking up for the winter. And that's kind of like with every fish, walleye, pike, bass, all the same species, but they will not go far from where they were in the fall time to their winter homes. In the wintertime, they like deep depression points. So anywhere where the lake basin kind of drops and then comes back up again, because the deepest part of the lake, but little depression points in the lake hold like little bugs in the mud, and that's what they feed off of almost all winter. And sometimes they can get on a minnow pattern as well during the late seasons, but for the most part, they're on little bugs and anything small in the water column. Yeah.
Like anything crappie related, you're downsizing. So let's say jigs 1/8 to like 1/16 ounce. You're not using anything bigger. You're not going like a quarter generally, unless these are like Lake Fork crappies. We're talking Manitoba here, so we have some great sized fish. So we have great fisheries for sure. Trophy size being I mean, like I said, master range is 12. It's not really hard to obtain. Like
No.
14 to 16 is like, that's what you want. And I've never stumbled upon anything bigger than 14, probably.
I've caught a 15 3/4
Yeah.
myself. But
I might have caught maybe around 14. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I've caught some nice fish and very rewarding fish for sure.
very, yeah.
Awesome seeing, especially with the takeover of live imaging. It's so easy to tell if they're crappie. You just see circles, especially in the white shell, like 2 will be longer, whatever. Yeah, but if you see a circle coming at you with like 4 or 5, those are crappie. So very distinguishable, which is very nice. On a flasher, the olden days, when it lights up like a Christmas tree. Oh, yeah, I guess not olden days. Sorry, some of us.
Not in the game.
Yeah, he's not in the game. Some of us still like to use the flashers. And yeah, the Christmas tree lighting up, that's a very rewarding, very cool thing to look at for sure. Just having your bait disappear and there's just a cloud of marks and just, wait for something. That's cool.
I'd say probably the ultimate setup for crappie is if you have a friend with live imaging and a friend with a flasher. Boom, perfect pair. Because the guy with live imaging sits in one hole and scans everywhere and tells me where the fish are. And for the most part with crappie fishing, you're hopping from hole to hole to hole to hole. You're hole hopping, trying to find that school of fish. And when you get on top of that school of fish, it can be very rewarding. Like you said, some schools can hold up to there was 5 to 20 fish in one school sometimes. It is absolutely ridiculous. So if you get on top of some hungry crappies in that school, you can have yourself a heyday.
Yeah.
For sure.
We had some great fishing last year for sure. Yeah, going on that is actually a nice 1-2 punch. Like having one person with the live imaging and having one person flasher. Because with my live imaging, yeah, I can see them. I can see where they are. But it's such a pain carrying this pole and carrying this I think it's 30-something pounds unit over.
30 pounds?
Just bear with me. It's heavy. Let's just say that. It's a 20 amp battery. It's a Helix 9.
Yeah.
It's heavy anyway. And then you have someone else with just a flasher where, yeah, they can move around a lot, but I mean, the cone angle is limited. So it's an amazing combo to have. So that was definitely the ticket to us this past season, seeing where they are and then actually getting on top of them. But yeah, bait selection, a lot of the time it's bugs. I mean, if you look at their mouth, it's very small, so you're not using anything very big, like I said. Now, they're benthic. I mean, they feed off bottom generally. They are suspended, definitely, but obviously they're benthic. They don't really eat mid-water column as much. It's usually siphoning through the muddy bottom and picking up bugs. So that's why a lot of the plastics you see with Z-Man microplastics and all these different brands, they're more geared and look like bugs because that's what crappie love. And I mean, my go-to for sure, I like to have 2 setups. I find I want natural as possible for the bug. So I don't really like to have the pink or the chartreuse or anything spectacular like that. I want it as natural as possible. It's like a brown, lighter yellow, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
And then a jig that's a 5mm or a tungsten jig.
Yeah.
Tungsten is key.
Yeah.
If you're not using tungsten at this point, you are kind of missing out. It's just it's so much better than normal lead. Jeez, I will say
you can get down to the fish fast because you're fishing. It depends on the lake you're fishing, but I'm gonna use the white shell lakes. They don't get much deeper than 40 feet of water in the crappie chain, anyways. So you're fishing anywhere from 15 to 30 feet of water. So having those tungsten jigs is really nice to get down to the fish fast, especially when there's a school waiting down there for you.
Yeah. So if you're not using tungstens, I like 3mm. Okay, let's say 2mm, 3mm, 5mm, my go-to.
Yeah.
And Wonder Bread and gold.
Absolutely.
My go-to colors. I don't know. With the jig, I like to have not as natural colors sometimes.
Yeah.
But if they're not biting on that, I'm gonna go to a brown, but a Wonder Bread or gold is always my go-to. I can get you some with the gold if it's sitting on bottom and they see the bug, but they see the gold catches their eye and they bite the bug. That's my thinking behind it.
Gold color almost resembles a little bug anyways, a more natural bug color anyways. Yeah. But I'd say my go-to would be a Wonder Bread 5mm tungsten jig with a 2.2-inch mini slayer minnow style bait. 2.2 inches long, And I use that almost most of the winter, and I hammer crappie and tulubi at the same time.
This thing is very gingery. Sorry, carry on.
You want me to finish that?
No,
or are you good?
no, you're good.
Okay, good. Yeah. The 2.2-inch mini slayer is probably an all-around bait for me. Aaron Weeb designed it himself, a very finesse bait for these crappies. Yeah, like for the most part, we said they're on a bug type program, but very so often they are on a minnow program. And, you know, these schools of bait like to follow mid-water column in these basins of the lake, and that's what the crappie feed on. And then I'd have another rod that resembles a like a little nymph or a little bug of some sort with a tungsten jig and a Z-Man plastic, or you know, whatever other bait 13 Fishing also makes really tiny bug baits. And yeah, that's probably would be my go-to setup for them.
Would you say a Jawjacker or an iFish Pro is something you use for crappie? I know my answer.
Probably not, no.
I agree. I don't think that those mix at all. And the way crappie eat, I don't know. I just think they just take it in sometimes in the way that the Jawjacker. Well, I mean, iFish Pro's different, but a Jawjacker.
Yeah.
I think you would hook them just not right or not hook them at all.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, I think if you got to hook set it fairly fast, because I think as soon as they feel it, something heavy, especially if you're using tungsten, keep in mind, this is a 5mm thing. They're going to feel how heavy it is. I mean, a little bit suspicious. It's not something they normally kept onto.
And for the most part, too, in the wintertime, like I'm not really using bait for crappies. And that goes for the other fish, too, like with walleyes or trout or whatever. If you're using bait.
You can't use live using the white channel, yeah.
Well, I know, but like salted minnows or whatever. If you're using baits, for the most part, the fish is just going to come up and bite it. Half the time, you're looking around for these fish for crappies, so having just one line in one hole if there's no school of fish there probably isn't really effective. And the fish just may come and look at it, and if it's not doing anything, why would he even bother? Crappie is more of a, you know, drop and chase kind of fish. Yeah. In my personal experience anyways. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't use a Jawjacker or an iFish Pro for crappies, but maybe for some other fish I definitely would.
Yeah, and that's interesting because in Manitoba you're allowed 2 rods, and generally when you're crappie fishing you're hole-hopping. Right. And you're not really using 2 rods.
No, you just have those 2 rods, you know, just in case the fish doesn't like your minnow style bait. Or
I'd have it sit in the rod holder with my fish finder, but I'd be using whatever, and if they don't like it, quickly bring her up, grab it, and bring it right back down.
Right. Exactly.
Where tungsten would be very well because you do that very fast.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's delicious. My favorite crappie memory. So, we're in the White Shop, spring break. This was this past season. So we had 5 days.
I think we were there for a total of 6 days, but we had 5 days of full fishing, yeah.
So Mr. Caden Prusian here thought it would be a good idea to target pike. And I thought that was a great idea too. Until I found out he doesn't know where pike are in the White Shell.
Figured that out yet.
Yeah. So besides that, the time we spent crappie fishing. Now there are, for those of you who know Big White Shell, there are very few community holes where there's crappie. And if you find a spot where there's crappie consistently, there's not other people there, don't tell anyone. Because the crappie spots are known on Big White Shell right now. But that depends who you are as an angler. Anyone, if you're good enough, you can catch fish anywhere, I think, personally, in my opinion. 10% of the people catch 90% of the fish. Yeah. That's a quote that will resonate with me for the rest of my life. Completely true. But yeah, when we were out for spring break and just being in the tent, I mean, it wasn't even crazy cold, which was super nice. Yeah. And you and Luke staring at the Megalite, and my favorite part was just seeing, you see in the left or the right, like 40 feet away, just a bunch of circles coming in.
And there's like 3 of them, was there not?
There'd be like, 3 or 4. And the way they were at a distance, they looked bigger at first, so like your heart would just start pumping. You see your things in the column. We'd all be at different depths, see what they like, and you just see these things coming in slowly. Oh, so cool. So awesome. And yeah, we kept some eaters, a few masters. We came back 2-3 times, and it was consistently good.
Oh yeah.
Just some people catching crappie, especially me who's fished walleye my whole life. So different, super cool. I know a few people who are like diehard crappie people who like religiously fish crappie only, and I completely understand it. Honestly.
Oh,
yeah.
No, absolutely. They're a very rewarding fish. So if you're trying to target crappie and you don't have all the fancy electronics and all of that fun stuff, but say you have a snowmobile or a friend's quad that you want to use that has crappie in the lake. So say there's crappie in the lake. One spot that you probably should look out for is if you're driving on the lake and you start to see a whole bunch of holes in one condensed area. For the most part, if you go in February or March area, you're going to see those holes already drilled, and that's because of crappie fishermen. They drill holes everywhere. Like on a regular day of crappie fishing, you drill anywhere from 25 to 50 holes trying to find crappie. So if you're not a big crappie fisherman and you do want to get into it, one thing you also could look into is mapping and trying to understand what the lake looks like and where these fish are going to school up, and you just go from there. And for baits, you do some research on it or grab information off of here and put that into use. But yeah, again, if you don't have mapping, you could just go up to a lake and go for a ride. And if you see a whole bunch of holes, like a lot of holes in one condensed area, that's basically where the basins are going to be.
Cheese, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have a very good chance of, finding at least a few crappie.
So yeah, if you're keeping crappie, it doesn't really matter what depth you're in, but generally if you're catch and release, obviously 25 feet around there is where the barometric pressure is going to take into place. So you don't want to keep them, but I find crappie the best depth. Well, what do you think the best depth is?
It depends on the lake, really. Like if, you have a basin that's 40 feet, you could be catching fish in 25 feet of water, because half the time when you're in, say the basin is 20 feet deep, and what I mean by the basin is the deepest part of that hole. Say it's 20 feet, those fish are going to be, anywhere from 10 to 15 feet suspended looking for those bugs that are, up in the water column. So it really depends on the lake, anywhere from 20 to, I'd say anywhere from 15 to like 25 feet is a good range to try and target them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said before, they can be right in the bottom, or they can be in the middle of the column. They're kind of everywhere. I mean, generally, when I catch them, I find they're off the bottom, but I find, like, when I saw them eating, they were more towards the bottom, like they're just eating other stuff, bugs and all that. Yeah, I'd say that's about the depth I'd want it. And another thing you were saying with the amount of holes, I think it's super important, especially if you have live imaging, to completely utilize it. Getting there earlier than when you plan on fishing, like while it's still dark out, the sun's still setting, pre-drill holes, and then when you're actually ready to fish and the bite kind of turns on, you don't have to be drilling holes over top of them.
Right.
And just drilling all these holes. It's nice to have them already ready to go, so then when you see the school go that way, you go over to your next hole and drop down, because crappie are pretty, they're pretty scared. They're kind of scaredy cats. I mean, they have to be. They're like on the lower echelon of like the food chain.
Right.
Everything else, like pike eat them. I'm sure walleye eat them. Depends how big they are. They don't really, they eat bugs. So they do have to be like that. That's why they, I mean, I'm not exactly sure if that's biologically why they school up, but that might have something to do with it. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Take your sip. There you go.
Absolutely delicious. Yeah, having them pre-drilled, I think is super important. There's no sense in, obviously, if you can't get there early, I understand.
Right.
But just keep in mind, you're going to have a pretty good chance of spooking the school, especially if it's in shallower water, if you don't have your holes already ready to go.
Right. And half the time when I go out by myself, crappie fishing, I've done that a few times, I don't even set up the tent even when it's minus 15, maybe minus 20. It depends on what I'm feeling that morning. But sometimes I won't even set up the tent, or I will set up the tent, or I'll have one rod going and no heater. I want to find these fish before I actually set up on them, because once I find them, there's a better chance that they might come back. So I'll usually set up the tent in one area where I know there's fish and then go hole hopping around. Or I won't even set up the tent and I'll just drill a bunch of holes and I'll just walk around with 2 rods and a flasher and a scoop in my hand and just go from hole to hole, spending anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes to a hole. And
I would say crappie 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah, maybe. Anywhere in it depends if you're marking fish. That's why I said 20. But you want to spend minimal time to a hole and just keep hole hopping to try and find these fish.
Yeah. I would say about 10, 15 minutes. You're around there. Especially if it's a community hole too. If you know the people, it's nice if like you're allowed to use each other's holes.
Right.
Like if you know everyone, it's kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you don't want to just start randomly fishing in other people's holes if you don't know them. Might cause a little bit of a brawl on the ice, but yeah. And talking to people too, I think is super important, and just seeing what everyone else has done, because I mean, you can obviously learn a lot from other people how they've done. But I would say too, use other people like where they are to your advantage. Like the only way I can make this make sense is if there's people who are fishing the crap out of one spot, and you can see on your mapping that just to the right of them they could get spooked into like a nice flat or a little shallow like break, or like some sort of separating like divide. I don't know, you kind of get what I'm saying. Sure. I'd say using other people to your advantage too, because keep in mind, crappie very spookish, so they're always gonna be moving, so you can kind of just figure out where you think they're gonna be based on like the bottom contouring and just maybe time of day, yada yada, all these different factors. You can find your way stumbling on a nice big school.
Yeah, and that's one thing I kind of forgot to mention is crappie are very spookish. So if you have a school down there, say you're marking like on Mega Live or your 2D sonar, you're marking a whole bunch of fish, like 5 to 10 fish on one screen. If you catch the fish and you put them right back down the hole, they will spook. They will disappear. Half the time I do is I'll drill a hole like 20 to 30 yards in that direction, and sometimes I'll even bring a pail out with me. I haven't used the pail yet, but half the time I'll catch a crappie, run over to that hole, and drop him in there, and then come back.
Because separated.
I separate him from his crew, so then he doesn't know where he is. But the rest of the school is still hungry, and nothing distressed them at all. So you can keep hammering those fish, and have a blast. And so you might be wondering, what time of day should I go and target crappie? The best time of day is to target them in low light conditions. So sunrise and sunset, or days that are cloudy, like heavy dark clouds during the day. That is one of the best times to target crappie. Sometimes you'll show up to a spot and you'll drop your deucer down and your screen is just littered with little marks on your 2D sonar or on your live imaging. That is because it is
sorry, 2D sonar. That's cute. Okay.
That is because of little bugs that you could be marking, or tiny baby crappies. I've heard a whole bunch of conspiracy theories on what that actually is. And if you're a crappie fisherman, you'll know exactly what I mean in low light conditions. But half the time they do like to bite during that time, during sunset and sunrise hours.
I mean, I've also been really fishing in like super sunny out. But yeah, probably low light conditions is your best chance. I've never really seen a species that like bites in a different time of day than like prime time, which is like early in the morning or like in the evening. I've never really seen like a midday fish like that. I mean, different bodies of water will be different. Yeah. But yeah, low light conditions is what I'd say. And I mean, they might use that to their advantage a little bit, their eyesight. I mean, walleye have really good eyesight. They have like the things in the back of their eyes, like cats do, so they can see in the dark. Pike are so. I think crappie have fairly decent eyesight though, so that they can use that still to advantage. So. Apologies, video cut there. We're gonna get right back to it. You're talking about them hiding.
Yeah. So what I was saying is most of these predators too. Predators, including walleye and pike, for the most part, they would be feeding off the bottom or on any shallow flats, so these crappies can hide suspended in that water column pretty easily. I've honestly caught a crappie in 5 feet of water when I was fishing in like 30 feet of water. So they can be literally right under the ice to right on the bottom anywhere in that water column during these low light conditions. And yeah, that's the one thing that's nice about them, is that you can, go out for the sunset or the sunrise bite and then relax all afternoon, go pike fishing, and then go back to them in the evening time, and they can still be there.
And crappie taste delicious.
Wow.
I mean,
especially in some catch and cook batter.
Oh yeah.
Super good.
They're nice and thin, but they're nice and big. They're a pie plate. They taste very good. Some people use electric knives because if you're doing like a bunch, but I would prefer to use a normal knife. no matter what species, but they're absolutely delicious. If you had to compare them to another fish, like they're not. It's not a white meat. It's like walleye, basically. I would say.
Yeah, it's like a flaky
Yeah,
white meat kind of thing. I like it.
it's very good. It's not too strong. I mean, I've never really tasted fish I don't like, to be honest.
No.
So
No.
I'm for all of it, to be honest. Yeah, I'd say the main idea that I would try and drive home is with crappie, you got to be moving around a lot, having your equipment, like have it based so that it's just as efficient as possible for you.
Right.
Gas auger is going to be heavy. Electric auger is going to be a lot lighter. Having a nice rod that you like, that has a good backbone, has a nice sensitive tip. Some people like, I like the blaze orange tip. Like I have a 36 light. I really like lights for crappie. Some people use medium lights. I like lights. Ultralight's a little.
Depends what kind of class you're going for.
Yeah.
If you're going for microscopic crappie and ponds, sure, go right ahead. But yeah.
Yeah. I like a longer rod, especially on outside. So yeah, 36, something like that, and just moving around a lot. Use your electronics to your best abilities. If you don't have anything, though, if you have like a stick and some line, you can still get it done. Just move around, get in the water column, try a little bit of everything. But yeah, use your equipment to your advantage. Pre-drill holes. Hole hop as much as possible. Don't spend too much time in a hole. Talk to other people, see where they are, what you can do to improve, what you're doing wrong, stuff like that. And I think anyone can catch crappie.
Yeah, just talk around and ask the other people in the spots of crappie, or even just people that you know that fish a lot. Ask them, what are you using, stuff like this. Excuse me, doing your beer. Yeah, just ask around and all that fun stuff. And the gist of this is don't be scared to target a species that you're not familiar with. Go out and try new things. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is you get skunked. Boo-hoo. You go out the next day and you just try again. And you just keep trying until you mastered it. And before you know, you're a professional crappie fisherman.
Like, I'll give you an example. See, I'm really good at crappie fishing, and Caden is, like, super stupid. So, like, when he asks me for advice, like, I'm willing to give it to him. Like, that would be completely ignorant of me to just keep all this amazing knowledge that I have and just not help a fellow introductee / rookie / absolutely atrocious angler of crappie. So if you have stupid people like Caden in your life, just try and help them out is the point I'm trying to say. Give them a little bit of help. Like, I know that they're usually difficult to talk to, but just give them a little bit of a...
That felt very directed. I don't know about...
Well, I did say your name. It was directed at you, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you guys want to subscribe to our fighting channel where we beat each other up after the podcast, link in bio. We're going to convert. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No.
We're going to go over to open water now. A little similar ball game, a little bit different. The boats...
Not even close.
What?
Completely different ballpark.
No, it's not.
Crappie fishing? Yeah.
The same idea, moving around a lot. They're always moving. You got to be moving around along with them.
I thought you knew everything about crappie.
I do know everything about crappie. What are you talking about?
Okay, keep going.
So, the boat that most people use, especially like high-level class crappie anglers, are usually kind of like bass boats, so a nice big flat top. Casting off the bow, if you have live imaging, you're looking at trees. You're looking at... I want to quickly interrupt this video, guys, to tell you all the links for our social medias will be linked in the description of this video. If you want to check out all the other episodes, they will be down there as well. Let's get back to it.
If you're trying to target crappie in a boat, do your research. Because winter fishing is a little bit different from summer fishing or fall fishing or spring fishing for crappies. So in the wintertime, like I said, they like to hang out in the deep basins. But in the summertime, they like to frolic in shallow weeds and submerged forage and all that fun stuff. So any big trees you can find any big trees you can find underwater, very key point to finding these crappie. I wouldn't say so much on flats. You can also target them there too, but good luck.
Well, that's where I catch all my big fish.
Finding underwater forage, like sunken trees, or even just, little key points of structure. Crappie like drop-offs. So any little rocks, any little trees that stick out under the water, or any little drop-offs from some weed edge, they're gonna like. I had this one spot, I go to that exact spot all the time, didn't matter time of day, they were always there. And I actually had a friend with underwater camera, and he went under there, and sure enough there was some really big boulders, and there was a couple logs under there. Didn't know because I had a 2D sonar, whatever, that's your department. But just do your research and don't be scared to try for a different fish species that you have not targeted before, because you never know.
Mhm.
And back then, I had no idea what I was doing for crappie. I was catching crappie on a 3/8 ounce jig and a jig in the minnow, and also on 4-inch crankbaits. So you never know.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe. Yeah.
Goodness
Maybe
gracious.
pop a couple pictures here. Yeah. Just insane.
Slip bobber setups, same thing, like an 8th ounce, 16th ounce jig and a plastic. First setup, I think still light, medium light to light.
Yeah.
Obviously, the longer rod it is, farther you can cast. Nice long bomb casts.
Mhm.
And when you set the hook, it's just going to be a little bit more play to it.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to have high visibility braid. I mean, I use fluoro on one of my ice reels for crappie, but I think like, what would you say? I think 4 to 8 pound is pretty.
Yeah, 10 would be pushing it.
I think 10 is a little too much. But I think high vis braid is super important, especially if you have a tungsten jig and you're dropping down and you just see the line jump or something like this. Because if you're fishing in deeper water too, braid has zero stretch. So when the hook sets will be a lot better. I think it's very important to have braid. I think that's a very important thing that crappie fishermen should have.
Especially from far away too, right? Because you're just
Yeah.
you're whipping it out of the boat, and you want to get a good hook set in these fish's mouths, because, like we did say, they are very small. And keep in mind too, for most crappie targeting wise, you're gonna want to target the weed lines and underwater fours. Like I said, you're gonna be casting most of the time, because if you just drop below the boat, you're gonna spook them. These fish are very spookish, like we said, in the winter and in the open water seasons as well. So casting as far as way as the boat is, whoa, okay. As far as
You ever had a dream?
Oh my God. I can't speak. I can't speak. You want to cast far away from the boat as you can. There we go. That's what I was trying to say.
You want to cast as far as possible.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry. But yeah, you want to try and cast as far as possible to not spook these fish instead of dropping right under them.
Okay, I literally just lost brain cells listening to you.
Okay, yeah, it's your turn.
Whoa. I want to actually go back to another point. We were talking about minnows.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're talking about minnows. Liveys, some people don't keep, let's say you're walleye fishing, whatever. And obviously you're going to want to use the bigger minnows.
Mm-hmm.
The small ones that you have, the small ones in the bag, the little ones are perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect for crappie. Like, they go gaga over some of them. I mean, some certain fish in certain places, they love live minnows. Like, love them. So, that's another thing, too. I think most of the time, most people go artificial. What are you smiling at? Like,
Just keep going.
a lot of it's artificial, but if you can get some small liveys, don't just pass them on. I'd say utilize them. That's just me.
And just keep in mind, Wedge Provincial Park, you cannot use live minnows.
Yeah, make sure, obviously, you read your regulations and all that, but yeah.
I don't know. That's all I got there, Steven.
My favorite memory. We're going to finish it off with a memory, and I'm going to do an absolutely amazing quote, which you guys are going to love. My favorite memory from open water crappie fishing. I don't remember if you remember this. So we're in the big white shell again. We obviously love big white shell. And we're going across the lake. We finally get to our spot. Okay, Caden, deploy the trolling motor. Okay. Goes to grab the remote on his chest. Oh, it's not there. He forgot it. So we had to go all the way back to the cabin, go all the way back. So we missed prime time. So like we were trying to stress the idea of be fishing at prime time. We missed that window. So thanks to Caden.
By 45 minutes it sucked.
But yeah, I remember we fished a point. I remember we fished like in like a little bay almost. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, behind an island, like whatever. And I can't remember where else we fished. But I remember the fact that we missed prime time and we caught one little crappie. So actually, it's not that little, whatever's on Instagram. But I was not expecting it at all.
No.
Like it just came out of nowhere.
That was your first ever crappie too.
I think it was my first ever crappie, yeah. That was funny. And yeah, stressed. Takeaway from that story is first
try new things.
Try new things. Second of all, yeah, like once you catch a crappie, it's pretty awesome. And 3, remind your friend to forget not forget the most important part of the boat. On a
Yeah.
crappie boat, you want control of your trolling motor. Super important.
Probably one of my favorite open water crappie moments was we went out with my dad, my mom, and my sister, and there was another boat with us. And we went out at prime time. I think we went out at like 7:30, and we fished till like 10 o'clock, 9:30 at night when it was kind of still light outside. And we went to this one spot. Like I said, we went to that spot all summer long for the past few years and just hammered crappie in that one spot. And we went there, we all dropped, and sure enough, not even like, I'm no joke, probably not even like 2 minutes later, I pulled up a 15 3/4 inch crappie. It was absolutely massive. It was probably the size of your pan that you cook bacon in. It's absolutely massive. And interesting. I put it back down, I released the fish, and then my mom caught like a 14-inch crappie. And then the other boat pulled in like a 14-inch crappie. We were just on this one school of fish. And we threw out a marker buoy, which we probably shouldn't be doing for crappie because you'd spook them. But we threw out a marker buoy, and we were drifting with the wind. And every time we passed that marker buoy, at least one of us caught 2 crappie in the boat. 2 crappie per boat. Each pass we did. It was absolutely ridiculous. And we were catching them till, I think, like 9:30, 9:45 at night when it was like the sun was like just going away. Keep in mind, it's like dead summer. And yeah, it was just probably one of my favorite crappie moments ever. It was ridiculous.
Crappie are nice for kids too, because I mean, on the dorsal fin there, it's spiky because they have a soft dorsal or soft ray, and then they have like the spiky ones that are sharp. So other than that, you can grab them by the mouth. So they're good for kids, I would say. I'd say they are very challenging at times, and they can be very frustrating. But if you can get on them, I think for kids it's a lot of fun. I think for even adults it's a lot of fun. And yeah, they're definitely an interesting fish. If I had to compare them to another fish, I don't know, maybe like behavior, aggression wise, probably like bluegill, honestly, I'd say.
Yeah.
Some,
haven't been much bluegill
some
fishing,
fish
but
like
yeah.
that, yeah. Different than other fish like walleyes and pike and all that. But they're definitely a very interesting fish. And if you haven't caught a crappie before, definitely try it out, see if you like it. Once you dive into that realm of crappie,
Yeah.
it kind of changes, especially if you have a background like me, just like strictly walleye. Not strictly walleye, but a lot of walleye. Something like that. It's something that I think is a lot of fun. Everyone should try at least once.
Yeah, exactly. And like Nathan said, once you dive into that realm, you're new to crappie fishing and you catch crappie and you love it and you get into that realm, you won't be scared of trying for a different species. You know, if you haven't caught trout before, you can always go try that because you figured out crappie, you can obviously figure out trout. If you haven't caught catfish before, you can dive into catfish. If you haven't caught sturgeon before, dive into sturgeon because, you know, you really never know. And getting into that realm of fishing, if you get that one successful trip where you haven't targeted a species before, you can target countless species that are in Manitoba and provinces nearby to, you know, try and up your fishing game a little bit.
I want to get one mounted in a few years. Nice big, like, if I got a 16, I want to get that mounted. They look, what?
That's huge.
Well, I'm a baller, so.
Okay.
Nice 16-inch fish on the wall. That look beautiful. I think they're a really good looking fish. And like I said, they're very low, like they're not as high on the food chain, so as long as they are not in decline, and there's not a whole lot, I mean, pike can take over and just completely or dissipate all the population of crappie. I wouldn't say they're very sensitive necessarily. I wouldn't say I'd say they're fairly hardy. Like they can go through a lot. They're like a trout where if it's 1 degree difference, they drop dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're awesome fish.
Pretty awesome.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's about it, Steven.
Move around a lot. Use tungsten jigs.
Be mobile.
Be mobile. It's the biggest thing. That goes for a lot of fish too. That goes for like, you really have to be mobile. I think especially crappie. You cannot just be sitting in one area for the whole day and get upset that you didn't catch anything.
You can't just sit in one hole and call them in with a rattle bait.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You gotta move. Well, even rattle baits, I don't know. I don't think they like rattle baits as much. You gotta use them.
I have caught them on rattle baits.
I know, but don't be using like TN70s. I think
Well,
that's
yeah,
gonna like hurt them. They're so small. The vibrations are gonna hurt them. Yeah.
That's all I got.
I'm gonna finish off with a quote.
Uh-oh.
If you want to catch a crappie, think of it like a fish. You have to be able to entice I don't know. I don't know. Do not fall in love with the deer stand if the deer have gone that way. That's all I've got to say. We're going to end off with that. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you guys feel stupider after listening to this, that is completely fine. If there are some takeaways from this video, we are very thankful for everyone that came in to listen. If you feel like you gained a little bit of knowledge today, consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and that bell to be notified when we next post a video. I'm Nathan Blank.
I'm Easter Region, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you later.